Section 3.4 deals with equations of lines. You'll want to get this in your notes, so make sure you open up your your table of contents, and stick this in as 3.4 equations of lines. So the learning targets for these videos. First, you should be able to write and describe the parts of these three forms of linear equations: point-slope form, standard form, and slope-intercept form. And secondly, you should be able to write the equation of a line given the following information. If you had the graph of a line, if you were given the point and the slope, a point and the slope of a line, 2 points on the line, point and the slope of the line, of a parallel line, and a point and slope of a perpendicular line. So to recap an earlier video, there are three basic forms of linear equations. We have point-slope form, which follows this this form: y minus y1 is equal to m times the quantity x minus x1. There's slope-intercept form, which is y equals mx plus b. Most students are mostly familiar with this one. And standard form, which is a times x plus b times y is equal to c. Now in the first two, m of course refers to the slope of the line. In point-slope form, y1, x1 refer to some point, any possible point on the line. In slope-intercept form, b refers to the y-intercept, which is the point 0, b. And in standard form, those parameters a, b, and c must all be integers, and a must be a positive integer. So we have 5 basic linear equation problems. First is given a point on the line and the slope, find me the linear equation of that line. Secondly, given a graph, pick a point and find the slope. Third, given 2 points, you have to calculate the slope. Fourth, given the equation of a line, find the equation of a line that is both parallel and passes through a given different point. And finally, similar to number 4, find the equation of a line that is perpendicular and passes through a given point. So you'll see that each of these 5 different types of problems have something in common. They all deal with points and slopes. And so that's why I like to say that your new best friend for this part of geometry is going to be the point-slope form of a linear equation. This is where you're going to start your problems dealing with equations of lines. This first example problem asks us for the equation of a line in both slope-intercept and also standard form for the equation of a line that passes through the point 3, 5 and has a slope of 1/2. So we're going to start this by using that information and plugging it into point-slope form. And so that gives us y minus 5 is equal to the slope, 1/2, times the quantity x minus 3. And then using algebra, we need to make that represent that as slope-intercept form. In other words, y equals mx plus b. So first, let's distribute the 1/2 into the parentheses. Then we'll add 5 to both sides. And so there we have slope-intercept form, y equals 1/2 x plus 7/2. Or if you had 3 and 1/2, that would be acceptable as well. Now that we have slope-intercept form, we also want to find standard form. Recall with standard form, the terms with x and the terms with y are both on the same side. So let's subtract 1/2 x from both sides of the equation. Then in order to turn all these coefficients into positive integers, we'll take and multiply both sides of the equation by not 2, but negative 2. And the reason why we're going to choose negative is the coefficient with x is negative, and so a negative times a negative will give us a positive. So I'm going to take and multiply both sides of the equation by negative 2. And so negative 2 times negative half x, of course, just leaves us with x. Negative 2 times y, that leaves us with minus 2y, or if you'd rather, plus negative 2y. And then finally, negative 2 times 7 over 2. So that equals negative 7. And so there we have standard form. Now it's your turn. Give this next example a try. Pause the video and try this out in your notes. You want the equation of a line in both slope-intercept form and also standard form, given that you pass through the point 10, negative 5, and you have a slope of negative 2/5. Pause the video now and give it a shot. You should have calculated y equals negative 2 over 5x minus 1, and for standard form, 2 times x plus 5 times y equals negative 5. Here our task is to find the equation of the line in both slope-intercept and also standard form for this graph. Now I've already labeled a couple of points. Here I have negative 2, 3, and 1, 2. Basically, you're looking for grid points, points where the line crosses an xy grid point. So for example, here's another one at 4, 1. Using those points, you're going to calculate the slope, and then selecting one of the points, you're going to plug that into point-slope form to calculate slope-intercept and standard. So let's start with finding the slope. So the slope of this line would be 2 minus 3 over 1 minus negative 2, which gives us a slope of negative 1/3. Then we'll take that slope and then pick either one of these 2 points and substitute the values into point-slope form. I'll pick this point just because the values are positive and it might be easier to work with. So now I've substituted this point and this slope into the point-slope form. Next, using our algebra skills, we'll turn that into slope-intercept and then also standard form. And so here we have our slope-intercept form. And now what's left is to calculate that into standard form. So let's add 1/3 x to both sides. And then to ensure that all the coefficients are integers, I see that the greatest common factor here would be 3, and so I'll multiply both sides by 3. 3 times 1/3 x, of course, is just x. 3 times y gives me 3y, and that equals 7. And so there we have our standard form. This next example is a bit similar to the previous one. Here we're given 2 points, and we need both slope-intercept and standard form. We're going to start with point-slope form. And in order to do that, we first need to calculate slope. And so we have a slope here of 10 over negative 5, which is negative 2. And now we'll use that slope. We'll pick one of the points. Doesn't matter which one. We could pick either the first or the second. I'll pick the first just because it's first. And then insert that information into point-slope form. And then, of course, we'll distribute that negative 2. And and subtracting 4 from both sides gives us a slope-intercept form of y equals negative 2x plus 0. And so there we're done with our slope-intercept form. For standard form, if we add 2x to both sides, let's do this, we get a standard form of 2x plus y is equal to 0. So there we go, slope-intercept and standard form. Your turn. Give it a shot. Here I've given you 2 points, and you have to write in standard form, only standard form, the equation of the line that passes through those. So pause the video now and try this out on your own. How'd you do? Hope you got 3x minus 4y or plus negative 4y equals 26. Here our job is to find the equation of the line, and we're only asked for slope-intercept form, for a line that's parallel to this line and it passes through a given point. Now remember, whenever we have parallel lines, the slopes are equal. And so we're going to use this information to figure out what the slope of our new line will be. So my recommendation is rewrite this as slope-intercept form. And so I calculated y equals negative 3 over 2x plus 5/4. And so there we have the slope, negative 3 over 2. And so then all that's left to do is to use this slope and the given point and start with the point slope form. Of course, minus negative 8 is the same as adding 8. And so our final answer should be y equals negative 3/2 x minus 8. Now you try. You want the slope-intercept form of a line that's parallel to 6x minus 3y equals 7 and passes through 5, 9. Pause the video right now and try this out in your notes. Hope you got something like y equals 2x minus 1. In this final example for tonight, you're looking to find the equation of a line, only in slope-intercept form in this case, of a line that's perpendicular to this given line and passes through a certain point. And so we'll use this perpendicular line information to find the slope of the line that we're looking for. Let's rewrite this equation into slope-intercept form so that we can easily find the slope. And so we have a slope of 3. However, since we want a line that's perpendicular to this line, the perpendicular slope, that's a perpendicular symbol by the way, perpendicular slope would be the opposite reciprocal, so negative 1/3. So that's the slope we'll use along with this given point for point slope form. And so our final answer in slope-intercept form, negative 1/3 x plus 9 2/3. Now it's your turn. Write in standard form the equation of a line that's perpendicular to 5x minus 3y equals negative 6 and passes through the point negative 15, negative 2. Pause the video right now and give it a shot on your own. Ready? Pause. Did you pause? Okay, good. Hopefully you got something like 3x plus 5y equals negative 55.